الشكر. والآن مع كلمة الصحفي الإيطالي الذي أجرى المقابلة مع قداسة البابا في كتابه الأول اسم الله هو الرحمة، فليتفضل مشكورا. طبعا والترجمة رح تكون موجودة أمامكم على الشاشة الفورية. So we are extremely happy to welcome Mr. Andrea Tornielli. Please.
مساء الخير، أنا مبسوط بالأردن. شكرا لضيافة. شكرا لضيافة. اسم الكتاب اسم الله الرحمة. الآن أتكلم إنجليزي. Sorry. Dear Minister Nabek Shokun, His Beatitude the Patriarch Fuatual, Professor Nida Zarzouk, thank you very much for your welcome and for this occasion. I'm here with a group of friends of the Italian Movimento Cristiano Lavoratori. Now I'm so happy for this presentation. I got the idea for a book like this on March 13, 2015, when on his second anniversary, Pope Francis led a penance service in St. Peter Basilica and surprised everyone by announcing a Jubilee of Mercy. I thought how wonderful it would be to ask him a few questions that focused on the theme of mercy and forgiveness, to analyze what those words mean to him as a man and a priest. I hope that such an interview would reveal the heart of Francis and his vision and be a text that will open doors, especially during this holy year when the Church wants to show its face of mercy in a very special and even more significant way. First of all, I want to thank Father Rifat Bader for this translation in Arabic and the publication of the book in Jordan. And I want to thank the Jordan people and the Jordan royal family and the government for helping refugees. Your country, which I had the honor of visiting with 3 popes in 2000, 2009, and 2014, is making a very important effort to save and welcome a very high number of refugees. To receive more than 1 million people from Syria because of the war is something that changes the face of your country and also changes the everyday life of your citizens. We are talking a lot in Europe about immigration, but what we are calling emergency is not comparable in any way to the challenge and the effort of Jordan. And yes, this is a real and concrete example of mercy. Thank you. Francis revealed that the idea of a special jubilee went back to this time as Archbishop of Buenos Aires, when during a roundtable discussion with theologians about what a pope could do to unite people in the face of so many seemingly intractable disputes, one participant suggested a holy year of forgiveness. He never forgot. In the book, the Pope explained, I hope that the Jubilee will serve to reveal the Church's deeply maternal and merciful side, a Church that goes forth toward those who are wounded, who are in need of an attentive ear, understanding, forgiveness, and love. Francis spoke of a church as a hospital for sinners. The church does not exist to condemn people, but to bring about an encounter with the visceral love of God's mercy. It is important to reflect on this word, visceral, because mercy and forgiveness are a sign of the visceral love of God for us. We are sinners and unfaithful, but He, God, is ever faithful. On the morning of Sunday, March 17, 2014, Francis celebrated his first Mass with regular people after his election as Bishop of Rome in Sant'Anna Parish inside the Vatican. On this occasion, Francis delivered his second homily as a Pope and spoke spontaneously. The message of Jesus is mercy. For me, and I say this with humility, it is the Lord's strongest message. The Pontiff chose to comment on the excerpt from the Gospel of John that speaks of the adulteress, the woman whom the scribes and Pharisees were about to stone, as prescribed by the law of Moses. Jesus saved her life by calling upon whoever was without sin to cast the first stone. Everyone walk it away. Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. The woman, Francis explained, did not claim to be a victim of false accusations. She did not defend herself by saying, I did not commit adultery. No, she acknowledged her sin and answered Jesus by saying, no one condemned me, Lord. And so Jesus said, neither do I condemn you. Go and from now on sin no more. Therefore, Francis concluded, Jesus forgives. But here, there is something more than forgiveness, because as confessor, Jesus goes beyond the law. In fact, the law stated that she must be punished. What's more, Jesus was pure and could have cast the first stone himself. But Christ goes further than that. He does not say adultery is not a sin, but he does not condemn her with the law. This is the mystery of the mercy of Jesus. Mercy is the way in which God forgives, because Jesus could have said, I forgive you, now go. As he said to the paralyzed man, your sins are forgiven. Here, in this situation, Jesus goes further and advises the woman to not to sin again. And here we see the merciful attitude of Jesus. He defends sinners from their enemies. He defends the sinner from a just condemnation. This, Francis added, also applied to us. How many of us full deserve to be condemned? And it will be just, but he forgives. How? With mercy. And this mercy is like the sky. We look at the sky when it is full of stars and imagine for a moment that those stars represent our sins. But when the sun comes out in the morning with all its light, we don't see the stars anymore. That is what God's mercy is like, a great light of love and tenderness, because God forgives not with a decree, but with a caress. He does it by caressing the wound of our sin, because he is involved in forgiving. He is involved in our salvation. This is the face of a church that doesn't reproach men for their fragility and their wounds, but treats them with the medicine of mercy. We live in a society that encourages us to discard the habit of recognizing and assuming our responsibilities. It is always others who make mistakes. It is always others who are immoral. It's always someone else's fault, never our own. And sometimes we even experience the return of a kind of clericalism, always intent on building borders, regulating the lives of people through imposed prerequisites and prohibitions that make our daily lives already difficult, even harder. An attitude of being always ready to condemn and much less willing to accept, ready to judge but not to bow down with compassion for mankind's sufferings. The message of mercy swept all those stereotypes away. I also want to speak about another issue, that is the social relevance of mercy. Mercy and forgiveness are in fact also important in social relationships and relations between countries. St. John Paul II, in his message for the World Day of Peace in 2002, which came in the wake of the terrorist attacks in the United States, stated that there is no peace without justice, but there is no justice without forgiveness, and that the capacity for forgiveness underlies all plans for a more just and supportive future society. A lack of forgiveness and the return to the law of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, could lead to an endless escalation of conflicts. On January 1st, 2016 of this year, during the Mass celebrated for the World Peace Day, Francis spoke about the situation of our world, wars, terrorism, poverty, violence. And he said, a torrent of misery, swollen by sin, seems to contradict the fullness of time brought by Christ. But, he said, this swollen torrent is powerless before the ocean of mercy which floods our world. All of us are called to immerse ourselves in this ocean, to let ourselves be reborn, to overcome the indifference which blocks solidarity, and to leave behind the false neutrality which prevents sharing. And finally, let me thank our Muslim friends, the minister, professor, who was so kind to be here and help us understand the message of mercy. Papa Francis wrote in his letter Misericordiae Vultus for the Jubilee, among the privileged names that Islam attributes to the Creator are merciful and kind. This invocation is often on the lips of faithful Muslims who feel themselves accompanied and sustained by mercy in their daily weakness. They too believe that no one can place a limit on divine mercy because its doors are always open. I trust that this Jubilee year, celebrating the mercy of God, will foster an encounter with this religion and with other noble religious traditions. May it open us to even more fervent dialogue so that we might know and understand one another better. May it eliminate every form of closet-mindedness and disrespect and drive out every form of violence and discrimination. Thank you very much. Shukran.